I have started streaming.
Okay. We're not showing up as streaming.
It'll probably take a second. And we're off and running, ready to go whenever people show up. Unless we chased everybody off last week. I guess we shall see. Yeah, there's 2 people. Well, there's now 1 person. There's another person. All right. So all we need is a couple people to get going. EU says hi, 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 Ewu, Ewi. I always do that. Me and my thing. Flower Child says hi, hi, Flower Child. How are you doing this week?
B is back.
Yay, B is there. Hi, B. We should be more controlled this week, I'm assuming. So, we should get more magic stuff happening here. Irene Max says, yeehaw, hey. Hi, Irene. He says, hi. Allura Valor says, Merry Meet Gang. Hi, Allura. How you doing? Iwi says, I like how you change my name up each time. Yeah, well, you know, good. I'm glad it does not offend. You never know. Angela says, hi, everyone. Just popped in to say hello. Busy day. Hugs to all. Catch you next stream. Okay, Angela, thank you for dropping by and saying hi, and we'll see you next time. So yes, this is always good. We managed to pick up our artwork from the fair this morning. We had to take my daughter's car because our van is now without a steering wheel because it was running weird, and Ian decided to take it apart to have a look at it. So it's still apart, but it worked out. So we're good.
We're waiting for a part.
That's right. We've got a part on order. We have to wait for the part to come before you can put the van back together. But hey, family is a good thing to have around locally sometimes. So we were able to borrow my daughter's vehicle, which would fit our pieces. So yay. So that's been fun to get them back in the house. So what do we all want to talk about today? We're ready for questions. B says, so glad you figured it out. Thank you. I brought along my talking stick today that I made. I'm actually quite fond of this talking stick. It's made out of rosemary wood from my garden. I had a very thick rosemary tree. It got really big. And so like I put it together to help keep focus and so forth. B says, any plans for the upcoming holiday? Well, that would be Lunasaw, which is happening like tonight and tomorrow. And I don't think I'm making bread, which would be what I would probably do. We'll see. Maybe I'm going to be inspired to make some bread tomorrow, or at least some, I don't know, pumpkin or apple or banana bread or something like that. And, you know, just say, hey.
But we've been pretty busy. We have a friend from the Grants Pass area coming over Wednesday.
Right.
With any luck.
I have to rearrange my schedule for that. But that is fine. We have enough notice. It'll be nice to see him. We haven't seen him in a long time. He's going to go to one of our local parks. In fact, the park that Ian drew or painted the picture of. So that'll be great. So we got good comments about the tree, and art is an interesting thing. I mean, my granddaughter and I were talking about art and creativity and so forth, and figuring out what is a good expression, something that brings you joy and pleasure and satisfaction of a kind that you can't get anywhere else, and trying to figure out what that is. And we are both lucky that we have found our respective art forms.
Yeah, I tried drawing for years and could never quite get happy with it. I never liked my results until I took up painting, and then it was like, oh, that's what I needed. So sometimes you just got to find the right medium.
You just got to keep on trying until something sticks. Ruth says, hi all. Hi, Ruth. Nice to see you back. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly what to tell her to find because, everyone is so different.
So far, we don't really have a topic today. Please suggest one. Ask a question or.
And our most recent video was on addiction and magic, so that is an automatic topic for the week if you want to delve into it, and if not, that's fine, because it is kind of an intense topic. And I really appreciate everybody's comments on that video. Everyone was very thoughtful and thought-provoking, and it became clear after I started reading through everyone's comments and responding that it was a good video for me to do. And I never know. I'm like, I'm always thinking, nah, nobody wants me to talk about this. And so it is interesting that it took quite a while for me to read through everyone's comments and to respond, because I don't like to just be flippant, because I really want to pay attention to what people are going through and so forth. So Iwi says, could you elaborate on the holiday you mentioned about today? I have never heard about it. Okay, so Lunasaw is the Celtic word for the holiday, and it is considered sacred to the god Lu, who's a sun god, or maybe a comet god, according to more recent research. And the idea of it is that it's one of the festivals of harvest, because the earth is, spreading its bounty and so forth. And it's the day in some traditions where the god is consumed and eaten, like literally consumed in two different ways. So one of the things that we did in the past was to, put a loaf of bread inside of an effigy of the god, then burn the god in the fire to let go of things and to uncover the hidden treasures that were inside of the body of the god, and then eat the bread. And like most of the holidays that we have, there's always an opportunity to let things go. In the past, a lot of people make dolls to burn in the fire for this festival. And of course, having bread and corn and that kind of thing. So the bigger, the big eight, as they are, this is one of the cross quarters where the equinoxes and the solstices are the quarter holidays. The cross quarters are the ones in between, which usually have some different kind of significance than the quarters do. There's usually some hidden mystery in there. And eating corn was one of the things that we would do on this day, and the corn being the body of the god, and you literally eat it. It was the first time we ever had raw corn. It was amazing. We absolutely loved it. A lot of people did not. They were like concerned. Were like, why?
Eating raw corn, something's wrong with you.
Yeah, you never know what.
But raw corn is actually great if you
very
ever try it.
Sweet, marvelous stuff. And so, So Violet says hello. Hi, Violet. And B says, I'm using the day to create a rune set. It is a day for craftsmen as well, from what I've read. Well, yeah. I mean, why not? Because it was a day of competition. They actually still celebrate this in Ireland. And they have a day of men competing with each other in different events and so forth. I'm not familiar with all the different things that they do, but they definitely have a robust kind of competition going. Lewell says, I've been having pain issues, and this week was diagnosed with peroneal nerve damage, with a part of my leg completely numb. So going back to King James demonology, a numb spot is a sign of a witch. Well, yeah, right. Lewell says, I found it almost hilarious. Yeah, some of the things that we did not understand or know anything about.
Well, they were just evil people. I mean, come on.
They were
They were
looking.
just evil people.
They were looking for excuses to torture
Yeah,
others.
that's,
That's pretty much what they were up.
They were
up
just
to.
evil people. I don't even put that under religion, really. They were just evil people using religion as an excuse.
There seems to be a large amount of
Yeah.
that going on. But yeah, when they were looking for the numb spot, they actually would have a retractable needle or poking device, and so they would poke the person who was supposedly a witch with the real thing and make her bleed and scream, and then they would switch it out for the one that retracted, and then when they poked there and no blood came and she didn't yell, and that was all the evidence that they needed. So I'm not sure if they really cared if it was numb or not. They just said, oh look, she can't feel this, so there you go.
That was all an excuse.
And B says, ha, indeed, very true. Yeah. It's an unfortunate thing that there are so many people who like to harm others and get enjoyment, twisted, sick enjoyment out of doing it. I can't understand it, which I've decided is a good thing. Means I have nothing in common with those people.
Yeah, you don't need to understand all the nasty stuff. You know it's nasty and you don't want to understand it. At least that's my approach.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm interested in all kinds of stuff, so I take that back. That's might be my preferred approach, but I'm too drawn by mystery and things I don't know, so I have to find out all kinds of things anyway. It's a good thing the cops never got after my internet searches or anything. Because who knows what they might think I was doing, because I look up all kinds of bizarre things.
So do I. I want to know, is that true? It's like, B says, they would also look for birthmarks or the witch mark. They were reaching for anything they could use. When I was little, I have a birthmark on my knee, on the bottom of my right knee. And it's one of those, like, brown, odd-shaped things. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, uh-oh, if this was back in the day, they would be burning me at the stake.
Yeah, or if you had epilepsy
or anything. There's any number of things that they would do. B says, ha, me too. I used to write fiction and my searches were super odd.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would work for that, because you'd have to look stuff up. So this week, apparently the aurora vortex is back. And I don't know if you've seen this meme going around, but someone has taken supposedly a picture of the aurora borealis in a swirling circular pattern and calls it a rare event, the aurora vortex. It's not real. It's not true. It doesn't happen. And I was reading through all of the comments on the posts, and apparently pretty much everybody, what the hell was that? Some big noise just happened in our garage. Ian is going to check it out.
either Ashley came in or her door wasn't closed or something.
Is the door shut? Oh, we might have a poltergeist. That would be fun. What fell?
I don't have a clue.
Alrighty then, a mysterious loud noise in the other room. We'll have to investigate more thoroughly later.
It sounded like the outer door opening.
But it's shut.
It's shut, yeah.
Okay, so where was I? I got myself all mixed up. Oh, the aurora vortex. And I'm just like, I love the aurora. I've lived with the aurora. I've seen the aurora for years. It doesn't do that. I don't understand, first, why people think it's funny to fake a photo. I mean, you can see a tree limb twirling upward because, like, they took the picture and they did this with it to give it that look, and nobody's noticing. It's like people just accept this stuff without any kind of question. Not me. I'm always researching everything I find. So anyway, Ida Mama says, I have one like that on the inside of my right knee. Lou Will says, I have a birthmark above my lip, birth spot. Also red hair and green eyes and left-handed. Oh, yeah. You are definitely doomed. Absolutely. Left-handed people are insane. Iwi says, my sibling and I have matching birthmarks. We must be super witches. Ooh, I like that. Yeah. You can use that. Witch. Yes, use it in your advertising. LP says, I'm surprised they needed an excuse. I thought the church was all powerful back then. Yeah, people like justification.
Yeah, it sometimes made me wonder too, but I guess maybe they thought they needed it for to keep the masses under control, probably.
So B says, I hope to see it someday. The Aurora. Gotcha. My brain is slow. Kenny says, hail there, Siofra and Ian. What's the topic today? Whatever you want it to be, or addiction and magic. And B says, the same people who only read the title of an article? Yeah, that's probably true. Like, I'm a curious person. I want to know what's real. Talon says, hi, folks. Happy to say I started new job 2 days ago. No more entitled pet owners.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. I'm so happy for you, Talon. That's a good thing. I'm assuming it looks like a good thing. And I'm assuming that you probably have more to that comment that will come out later. But congratulations. Yeah. Yeah, granddaughter and I were definitely talking about the whole how to use magic to help with addiction and so forth just last night. So it was a good subject, I thought, because I use it a lot for trauma. I didn't have any specific physical addictions, but I was addicted to the adrenaline that my body produced because of fear in the events that I went through. And it took me a long time to realize that that was actually a thing, which people tend not to talk about. Which is why if you know somebody who is like addicted to drama, they think they have to start a fight in order to get close to somebody or to make sure that they care about them or something like that. That's generally what's going on, is they're trying to get an adrenaline boost because that's what generates that feeling. It's kind of interesting. And then the opposite, where they're all numbed out because if nothing's happening in the moment, there's no need to pay attention to it. So Kenny says, so I finished my wand I've been working on a while last night. I put satin varnish on it and it's super glossy and beautiful. Cool. What kind of a wand, if you want to share? I mean, what wood did you use, or metal, whatever it was? Alan says, yes, a very good thing. I'm the only bartender at the most overpriced restaurant in Tulsa. Well, there should be good tips in that, and you'll probably get some interesting stories. The Allure of Valor says, that's very interesting. Wow, didn't know that. I'll accept that. The adrenaline, yeah. It did take a while for me to figure that out. I think getting with Ian was when I started to really figure it out because, you know, we don't fight. And learning how to be happy was weird. It felt very alien and strange and unfamiliar and uncertain and things like that. It's very different to be in a healthy relationship.
It really is.
Moonfire Dawn says, I thought I was addicted to drama, but I'm super calm now that I'm divorced and solitary. Well, there is also that. Being with the wrong person does not help. That's a fact.
But you actually do get like physically addicted to adrenaline. You know, your body expects it at a certain time, and then you don't get that adrenaline. It has to readjust. So anytime your body has to readjust, it's a little uncomfortable anyway.
Lulu says, I used to project my personality traits on people, thinking better of them than they actually were. Same here. And was addicted to believing the best in people, kept giving and not realizing I was used. I would call that positive projection. And, you know, negative projection we can identify rather readily, but positive projection is a lot harder to get a handle on. And we had a very powerful experience on that really knocked that home in my head. So now I'm like, if they say something obnoxious, they're probably an obnoxious person and accept them for who they present themselves as instead of who they might become.
Yep.
I think that's a problem with empaths, that we have a tendency to do that. So B says, good for you, Moonfire. Opie says, I tried the hot foot powder on the dark moon last week. The neighbor was back in the house less than 48 hours after. I guess it didn't work. How long do these things take in your experience? Depends on if there's other forces at play that are beyond our control.
Yeah, and
Sometimes we don't know the whole story as to why, but try again.
yeah, unfortunately, I've had things take a year or two to manifest, and all of a sudden it'll come down, and I'll recognize the energy, and I'll know that it happened. But it kind of depends on how much time you have to be open to that kind of energy, to letting it manifest. Because I've had things happen immediately, and I've had them take the longest time.
Yeah, it seems to depend upon a lot of external factors that are beyond our control. But with something like that, you might need to do it more than once, and and uh, and it can take a while for it to take effect. Talon says, you mentioned magics and addiction. I have found that when I have been twisted off, my magics backfire more than manifesting. Well, certainly depending on what you're doing, I could see that that would be true because focus, concentration, intention, purity of thought and intention are all a factor when it comes to manifesting what you're trying to do. And so, yeah. Kenny says, oh, Lewell says, I did that. Or B says, Lewell, I did that as well. I'm still working on it. That's the positive projection. My tongue. Kenny says, it's from a pine, from a tree that was cut down around my house. I put silk on the bottom and silk roses I bought at a craft store. Got some crystals that fell off my bracelet when I broke.
Cool.
Sounds nice. And the silk wrapped around means that you're insulated from the energy when you're using it, which can be important if it becomes a very charged object. I had to do that on several of my wands. The solar one was the first one that I realized, oh, if I grabbed the sun with my bare hands, it could not be a good thing. It would give me migraines. It was the weirdest. Like whatever hand I had my wand in when I was holding the bare wood, I would get a migraine on that side. And that's how I figured it out. Because it happened when I was walking up a hill to go to the top of a waterfall in order to charge it up more. And I switched hands and it went away. And then it migrated to the other side. And I was doing that all the way up and all the way back. So by the time I was done, it now is a cure for my migraines if I get one. I've used it to do that. And then I hold it in the hand until the migraine stops, and then I let go of it very quickly so it doesn't come back. So Moonfire Dawn says, right, Ian, it's been months and I still sleep in marathons because I was keyed up so long. And
Yeah.
lots of projection of energy between us. Yeah.
Just be slow to get rid of that stuff sometimes. But
B says, I also have experienced that. It definitely takes time and willpower to separate it. Kenny says, it was the weirdest thing. I found a red crystal at work. It looked like it was from someone's bracelet. It rolled in front of my feet, so I took it home. It's put it at the tip of the wand. Cool. B says, Kenny, I love when things come to me like that as well. It's always so interesting and fun. Definitely. Yeah. And Moonfire Dawn says, pretty cool finding a crystal. I have such a concern that I'm going to accidentally use someone else's things. Someone left a bag of crystals in my office and I could never find out who it was. I left it there for a year before I decided it was mine. Just in case they were going to come back for it, treating their magical items with respect. And it was in a bag. It was clearly a medicine pouch kind of thing. But nope. They are now mine.
Yeah, well, they must have not been incredibly important, or the person would have come back for them.
Well, that's what I figured. I figured that was probably the case. So, Moonfire Dawn says, pretty cool finding a crystal. Yeah, they are really awesome. Luo says, still working on my Venus wand. Venus will have its return around my birthday. I was born with Sun and Venus conjunct. I'm looking forward to that. All right. B says, I also do that. Well, you can never be too cautious when it comes to not accidentally stepping on someone else's magical toes.
No.
I don't want to get zapped in the process, even if I have them well-meaning, Talon says, I just finished decorating a new cauldron, 13 colored freshwater pearls around the rim. my personal sigil, and it's now overflowing with gold $1 coins as an act of sympathetic magic. Nice. I like it. He says, Talon, that sounds gorgeous. Yes, it does. Sounds like a good way to use a cauldron, too. Cauldron of plenty. And why not?
Lou's
It's harvest.
cauldron.
Yeah, it's harvest time. I think it's actually, I don't think Lou
Right.
has a cauldron.
I got the wrong one.
I think that's the Dagda
You know,
and
yeah, that's
and Caradwyn or the Morrigan have a cauldron. I think it might be Caradwyn that has a cauldron too. Very similar to the Dagda's cauldron.
well. The Dagdas is the of plenty.
Yeah, his is a cauldron of plenty. Plenty of
pig
food and
yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
sustenance and all that stuff. Shay says, hello, dear ones. Happy Sunday. Hi, Shay. Thank you for checking in with us on your break. We always appreciate it. So, yeah. Hey, Shay, Moonfire says. B says, I recently found a small cauldron at a thrift shop. I'm still not sure what I'm going to use it for. For now, it's just serving as a scrying bowl. But I want to do more with it. I have a really small cauldron that I found at a thrift store, and I have it in my portable altar stuff for when I go paranormal investigating, and I might need some magical objects with me. And it's a full-on cauldron. It's got, you know, it's cast iron and everything, and it even has a painted pentagram on it, and that's a raised pentagram, but someone painted it. So it belonged, I'm figuring, to a teenage witch, and her parents found her stuff and gave it away. So I gave it a good home, so no random person would get it and think it was just a Halloween decoration. Shay says, blowing kisses. Talon says, it lives on my prosperity altar. The table itself has actually paper money under a coat of artist's resin.
Cool. Well,
Perfect. B says, ooh, that's a good idea, portable cauldron. Ida Mama says, I am currently making my travel altar. Yeah, and mini cauldrons are kind of nice to have because, you know, that gives you one of the 5 elements as spirit. You can use it as spirit.
yeah, you can use it for to contain fire, or you can use it to indicate spirit, like the acacia,
Yep.
the center of all things. So in that case, I think it's usually used in the center, as indicating the center of all things.
I did that in a workshop up in Prince George, and I put the cauldron in the middle, and then we were dancing around it, and I said, don't touch the cauldron, the entire universe could come to an end because we will disrupt the time and space continuum or some such thing. People were worried. I was just like,
We actually did a nice spiral dance around a cauldron once in a motel in Ashland. I don't remember, it was one of these big ones that they do things in. But there was probably 40, 50 people, I think, all told, doing it. That was the biggest spiral dance thing I've ever been in, and that was cauldron in the middle type of thing for that symbolism.
the biggest one I was in was at the protest, the nuclear facility protests in Nevada, outside of Las Vegas, and we were arrested, and there were about 400 of us on that half of the bars thingies, the gate, giant fence they put up to contain us. And that was an amazing experience to be involved with that many people in a spiral dance and singing all together. The guards were like dumbfounded and slack-jawed and did not know what to do. They was like, they couldn't get in there because we were all this mass of moving and singing people and all intertwined with one another, going in different directions depending on where you
When I
were.
think about it, there was probably only about 30 people, not 50, so
Well, hey.
it wasn't huge, but it was inside a hotel, and that was cool.
That was cool.
With cauldron and robes and everything. So
Yeah, this one was just sort of a spontaneous event that happened in the middle of the protest at the nuclear test site. Alan says, I like using miniature cauldrons to contain fire inside my apartment when the occasion for a small fire is needed. Kenny says, I don't have a cauldron yet, just a black ceramic bowl I use. Allers is laughing, tears coming out of her eyes. Moonfire says, I just decided a black box I have sitting around could make a good portable altar too. I'm trying to decide how to decorate it. Oh yeah, decorating is
That's
always
part
fun.
of the fun, figuring out
Yeah.
what to put on it. And
You could
what
put the
you're gonna
triple
do with
moon
it.
thing on there. You could put a sun on there. You could put the symbols for the elements on there. There's like so many things you could do, which would be fantastic. B says, I always think of things like that as if it serves as the tool you use it as, it is that tool. So a bowl should work, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
the
you
only thing
can.
wrong with a bowl would be if you want to burn a big fire in it or something, and it's.
Yeah, you don't usually
Yeah.
want to burn a bowl.
But other than something like that, yeah, it's you know, like you say, it's how you use it, what you use it for, and it is important that you respect it, though. You have to have respect for your tools. Or they
Treat
won't be
them
good
like sacred
tools.
objects, and they become sacred
Yes.
objects. That's the
Yeah.
way that works.
Treat them as sacred objects and have respect for them, and they will work for that purpose.
So Nick says, nice. Hi from England, Cornwall. Hi, Nick. Nice to have you join us. Oh, yeah. As far as news is concerned, we've actually working with a partner to make a couple of products from the artwork that we did. So Ian's Rose you can get now as a t-shirt, and then Ian's painting of the park you can get as like a matted poster type thing. So we're pretty excited about that, and that's up on our Etsy site at this point. So B says, hi Nick from Missouri in the US. Yeah, Kenny says, question, how do I find other witches around me? I live in a small town in South Georgia. Everyone has that question and there's no good answer. We used to have a good place to go. Witch Fox is no more, and they actually were a good resource for that. Other than that, if you can find a local metaphysical shop, even if it's out of town a little bit, you can start networking there and hang around, or a crystal shop or so forth. Look at bulletin boards and see if someone's doing a class or some kind of an activity that you can participate in. And that's about the only thing I can think of. He says, that's what I meant. Safety first. Indeed. Dallin says, I recently hydro dipped a hinged wood box I found at a craft shop. It's had a lot of compliments so far. That's cool. I love crafts, all kinds. Lewell says, early spring this year, I found a stick, staff-sized, on my walk in the woods. I finally got around to decorating it. If anyone asks, I'll say it's my walking stick, but it's definitely a staff. My staff does not like to be called a walking stick.
My staff is a staff too, but I just decided recently I'm going to turn my walking stick into kind of a staff, but to be used as a walking stick. So I want to build in such things as guidance, not to get lost, keep danger away, anything you might want when you're out walking around, and charge that up and use that. So I'll have a magical walking stick. I guess maybe it'll be a magical walking staff, but dedicated to that purpose. So I won't be, using my staff as a walking stick.
Yeah. Moonfire Dawn says, Kenny, a lot of us are lonely. I'm in a small town, Michigan, and grew up in an Amish town in Indiana. Wow.
Wow, I bet it is hard to find
Hard
witches
to find
there, yeah.
witches, I bet. The future is now. Hello, Siofra. Any tips on how to connect with the Fae while living in the city? Find a local park. Any park. A lot of cities have got community gardens, too, that you might be able to go hang out in, but city parks are going to be your best option for interacting with the tree spirits and the Fae that live nearby,
Yeah,
and to give you some kind of energetic connection to them.
Yeah, it depends on the park. If you have a big, long park like the one in Ashland, it is so big that it's easy to find some solitude, even when all the people are there. You just walk up to the far end of the park. So if you've got something like that where you can walk to a place and get a little solitude, that will help also. The less people vibrations you have, I think, probably be better for.
Well, it's easier to tune out the stupid human stuff, and tune into the more calm, relaxing, and energetic nature stuff.
It's like turning down the volume on the background noise, so
yeah.
Everything comes through a little clearer.
Absolutely. Lewell says, I'm still in the closet. I'm so
Yeah.
far out of the closet at this point, I don't think there's a closet in sight. Of course, I was out of the closet when I was a teenager.
Yeah. Well,
When I kept telling everybody I was a witch, no one believed me, but I told them anyway. They all looked at me like, okay, something's wrong with you.
yeah.
You're a
No,
crazy
there's
person.
still, depending on your situation, there's still reason for caution, and there's nothing wrong with being in the closet if that's keeps you safe and keeps, because there are enough obnoxious people who hear the word witch and just like have a conniption fit.
Oh, yeah. And Nick says, lots of adventures for the staff. Futures now says, thank you. And Talon says, I created on my patio an area that wandering fae enjoy getting to hang out. Yeah, which is another good idea. I had an encounter with a type of fae when someone bought me a plant from a plant shop, like a flower shop kind of thing. So they are another place you might encounter them. It came with the plant and then went back to the shop because, staying with my house was not where it wanted to be. LP says, I started being very discreet with my practice, but rather quickly my parents and husband figured it out, and I guess I'm not great at discretion. Yeah, well, I'm in that boat as well. I'm definitely not good. I accidentally told my doctor at my doctor's appointment about my near-death experience. She was making notes. I'm not sure what she was writing down. And I'm thinking, maybe that wasn't such a good idea to tell her about going up with the angels, seeing the light, and being brought back, and then being told that they couldn't bring me back again, so I had to stay or not be here. So yeah, that was sort of an interesting little side conversation with my doctor.
You can always hope she just found it interesting.
She might. She once asked me about my name, so that was another interesting conversation. Mary Wick says, they are mostly healers and dehexers. I'm not sure who is mostly healers and dehexers. Witches? B says, I've been out of the closet since I was 13. My parents just accept it at this point. I'm very thankful for them and their acceptance. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice, and it's pretty rare from what I've seen, and unless your parents are the same way to start with, which isn't the case with most of us, I think.
Well, my mother did her best to accept me because, she wanted to understand me, but she didn't ask me what would be a good source of information. So
yes, well, Dianic Wicca
she
is
went
not,
to the wrong source and was very confused for a while because I kept talking about the god and those other witches did not. So that was funny.
Yeah, I don't know if people are familiar with the Dianic aspects, but mostly they're not male oriented.
So LP says, I reckon the Beeson gave me away. Mary says, the Amish powwowers. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Sometimes we lose track of our conversation since we have several of them happening simultaneously. Lula says, found a crystal statue of an angel playing a violin in a thrift store. Saw it and liked it immediately. Picked it up and got a warm, fuzzy feeling. Brought it home, of course. Good.
That's cool.
I actually have a lot of angel statues I've picked up and then repainted to be goddesses or
And even
nature spirits.
even simple little things. For a brief time, we had an RV, and it came with a little elephant in it that had been played with kids. Kids had played with it so much that it just felt joyful. It had that kid energy in it. It was a little rubber elephant that was actually an advertisement for a tire store.
It was blue, wasn't it?
Yes, it was a little blue elephant, but wow, the energy on that was just so awesome I couldn't put it down. It was cute to start with, and then it had all that joyful kid energy in it, and it was, I know another blue elephant like that wouldn't have affected me that way at all. Very rare you come across something really nice like that with external energy, but sometimes you can find them.
So Allura says, I encountered a lot of amazing Fey energy as I went around my community cleaning up trash. Good things happened after that, which is cool.
Yeah, the universe appreciates you doing things in general.
It notices it too.
Whether it's spirits or whatever, yeah, it can respond nicely. Or oddly, too, depending.
Last night, I had a huge visitation by a whole bunch of fairies. They were trying to give me an experience of what it was like to have wings, because I'm like, why do you have wings? And so we were off. So it was entertaining. A lot of colors and a lot of wonderful smells. And then I had a hard time sleeping after that. It's always a trick when you're getting ready to go to bed and then something exciting happens and your third eye starts popping open and you can see through your eyelids. Makes it hard to sleep. But hey, it's okay. So Lewis, or B says, that's amazing. Lulu says, this is what angels feel like to me. They are here, but it's easy to see through them, but they are definitely here. And B says, I have a few statues of Mary that I've repurposed the same. Yeah. And, she was an original kind of virgin goddess, I would think. And for people who are into that pantheon, she's a good introduction to that kind of energy. I talked to her all the time when I was a kid. I was raised Methodist, so why Mary was my go-to, I think it's because I felt she was a girl and I was a girl and Jesus was a guy and he wouldn't understand what I was going through. And so Mary became my connection very early on. It's kind of interesting. Nick says, wow, awesome. Alan says the McFarland branch of Dianic Wicca out of Texas accepts men into their covens. There's a couple of them here in my local area. Yeah,
Well,
to be
cool.
fair, there are different types of Dianic
Yeah.
covens, but
Well,
that was not the kind
yeah.
that my mother went to see.
Well, and
There
that
is
was,
one that's a male-female.
Yeah, and in Ashland there was a woman, which we know who is Dianic, and we heard afterwards she ended up marrying a man, which at the time she seemed anti-male, so I guess that was just for the coven or something.
Or maybe she changed her mind
Maybe she
because
changed her
maybe she
mind,
was
that's true.
pansexual.
Well, she never wasn't really like anti-male. I mean, I thought she was nice. I got along fine with her, and it was her talking stick was
That
the
gave you
first
that
magical
zap.
zap I ever got, and that really sinks things home when you get a magical zap like that from something. Went right to my heart center. It was clearly magically charged to speak from the heart, basically. But it was so definite a feeling of energy. It just like, pow, really
Yeah, it's experiences like that make
got
you
me.
not have doubts about whether
Yeah.
magic is real, because it's like out of the blue,
Yep.
not looking for it, just happens. Definitely. So, yeah, it's always interesting when you have strange things happen when you're going to bed. But I haven't been visited in a while, so I was kind of tickled to see them all. And I guess a few weeks ago I had a black eagle came and visited me. I saw him briefly standing there looking down and just saying hey. So B says, during the huge storm on Tuesday, I was laying on my porch on my back and suddenly my hands felt as though they were burning with energy. It was extremely uncomfortable. It went away as soon as I went back inside. The storm was really destructive. Makes me curious as to what that was. Well, probably just the energy, the electricity in the air. There's a lot of energy flying around in a big storm. And, we're sensitive to energy. So there might have been a way to get you in the house so you didn't get accidentally hit by lightning, which I've had happen to me. Not fun. Don't recommend it. Very disruptive, to say the least. B says, interesting. Ha ha. Yeah. Yeah, me and Close Encounters with Lightning could fill half of a book with just those. But yeah, it's my granddaughter and I were talking about how you pick your path. I mean, when you're wandering around, it's like I've done a lot of different kinds of magical operations, but I've done them because I needed them. Something happened in my life or something landed at my feet, and in order to take care of it, I needed a different skill set than I was usually using, and then I would know how to do it, and then I would just do it. And it's like, I guess that's clairsentience, when you just suddenly know how something works. And I've had that ever since I can recall. But some witches want to like specialize in one particular branch or two branches or whatever. And I'm not good with that because, like I said, I'm like quick on my feet and oh look, I need to have this happen now, so let's go and do that now. So
Yeah, well, that's kind of been my approach too, and that's why I ended up having studied so many different things. Plus, which I find things I don't know fascinating and want to learn them in general, um, except for a few subjects. But so
well, and
yeah,
the things that you learn inform your path. I mean, the way I
yes,
make my wands, the first wand that I made has informed my work with wands for the rest of my
oh yeah,
life.
you
Because
learn
I
stuff.
did that
You
because
know,
I needed, I had made friends with this particular tree. I'd sat under this tree for like a year. It had become a friend, a comfort to me, and they were kicking me out of where I was and they were going to log the area. And I wanted to take a piece of that energy with me. And that's what became my first wand, taking the spirit of that tree so that it would always be alive and I could always connect to it. And so that formed my path in relationship with wands. So it's kind of interesting. It's like you don't have to have just um, a roadmap so much. It's the little things along the way that you pick up or put down that guide you in the direction you're going if you're paying attention. And then you look back 30 years later and you go like, oh wow, I had no idea how important a choice that was or how impactful a choice that was going to become for later down the road. So it's interesting.
I think the most important thing is to try to live life with awareness and try to be aware of the things and the opportunities that the universe might offer you, and especially if you're getting on the positive end of things, having positive thought forms and stuff like that, you'll find you'll start getting a lot more of that positive energy back.
So bees went back inside, which I think we said.
Right.
And interesting, I can imagine. I'm just glad you're all right. Yeah, me too. Lulu says, yeah, my hands burn sometimes. I feel like I'm a comic character that can send firebolts out of my hands. Neurologist said that I have too much electricity going through my nerves. Well,
I would like to point out, though, that Kundalini can cause all kinds of heat, and it is real common for Reiki practitioners and other types of energy healers who work through their hands to feel very hot, for their hands to get very hot. And in fact, people treated by them, by good Reiki practitioners and things, will feel the heat from their hands. So it's not entirely psychological in that case. It's, it's definitely a physical, actual increase in heat. And
you can see your
doctors,
hands get red.
yeah, doctors will just tell you it's an increase in uh, circulation in your hands due to you paying attention to it, which I guess is probably true. But the fact is, people get burning hands from things like that, from using energetically using them.
Well, B says, thankfully it only happened the one time. Kenny says, how often do you give offerings to the Fae if you do, and do they get mad if you don't do it daily? The answer is, I have a relationship with the Fae. I don't give them things on, like on a schedule of any kind. If I can assist something that they need me to do and I'm around and available, I will. I've done some amazing things with their assistance and because they needed it, like fixing, unblocking a major ley line on the planet. And although they couldn't do it themselves, I could facilitate and guide, and they could help me do it. It was a whole story. I think I have one of my videos. I just talked about that and nothing else. And a lot of people are afraid of offending the Fae, and in my experience, they do not offend easily. They're suspicious of humans because we're irresponsible, a lot of us, and not consistent.
Yeah, they can get offended if you try to offend them or if you're just being rude or obnoxious, but in general, yeah, it's not like our human world of human judgments and things.
Yeah, and if I'm picking a plant or something, I always give thanks to the plant, give an offering to the plant, which is giving an offering to the Fae,
It's a lot of
or
times
the
water
nature
is fine
spirit
for a
that
plant.
is a part of that plant, or whatever other beings that might be there. It's an acknowledgement of the sacrifice that they're making so that I can help someone else or help myself, or make a really good stew and flavor it. You know, so it's about awareness and being conscious of what you're doing in the world, and that focused attention is what they appreciate the most. Um, but yeah, so I'm not worried if they give me things, I accept them, and sometimes they take things and then I call them on it and then they put them back. They're kind of playful, like a kitten in some cases. So B says it was like that prickling energy feeling, but way, way too intense. And same here. I assist if they need me to, and I can do it. I also give offerings in return for aid. It's a back and forth relationship. I also sing for them on occasion. And they love it when we celebrate the holidays because all of the witches' holidays are about nature, being in tune with nature, being uh, ex- experiencing and expressing and noticing the change in the seasons and the energy that's around us and so forth. It makes us a part of nature, which makes them a part of us because, you know, it's like, and we can be all natural if we want, unless we're like, you know, shy. But yes, and certainly singing is a wonderful way of expressing joy. I like any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the first time I had a tree actually talk to me, I was happened to have a little fife I was trying to learn to play, and I was just trying to play it for the trees, just for, well, I guess just to communicate with the trees, and they did. So that was pretty awesome. So I don't know that they appreciated the music as such, but they certainly appreciated the attempt to interact with them on that level.
So Lowell says, I'm a Reiki master but stopped practicing for a little. However, I tried this only on my immediate family, touch free, and my child can't believe how hot the air is when my hands are above him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And certainly, you know, some of the long distance healings that I've done, I use the Reiki method of sending energy long distance and other things that I know how to do as well.
And it could certainly be intense for the receiver. I was working on Siofra's neck one time for her damage, and she kept telling me I was pushing too hard and I didn't have my hands on her head at all. I wasn't even touching her. So it can actually be intense.
Yeah. So Vanessa V says, hello, finally made it back to alive. Hope you've been doing well. Hi, Vanessa V, nice to see you back. Kenny says, one of the gnomes that I work with was skeptical at first because he wasn't sure I was committed, but thank you for answering. You're welcome. Because, yeah, it is. It's a relationship like anything else. Trust develops over long-term experience and you know, reinforcing the commitment or keeping your word about something.
Yeah,
Because that's what magic is.
Like it is with people, as far as that goes, you get the respect that you deserve.
So Kenny says, and B says, hi there, Vanessa. Kenny says, and sorry if I'm all over the place. I'm at work. Well, good for you for sneaking in some magical conversation while you're at work. Moonfire says, hello, V. Yeah, so, oh, and before I forget, we have our ribbons that we won. So this is the one that I won. I got best in show, and I was very tickled that it was a purple ribbon, since purple is my favorite color. I don't know if it shows up as purple or not, but that's it. There it is. And then Ian got best of division for his piece, and his is a nice yellow. So that's also quite lovely. I was very glad that they recognized his work, so that was his ribbon. And yeah, so at least they go all out on the ribbons, right? Even if there's not much else that happens. So B says, the Fae have always been around my area, but never worked with me until I became serious about my craft. Then they came to me. So that definitely tracks. Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. They really like witches. Witches and the Fae have a special relationship, not like regular humans and the Fae. So, you know, they expect more from us, really. Talon says, I went to a summer solstice festival one year where I stomped out into the woods with a bottle of wine to share and my guitar to serenade the trees and land spirits. Awesome. He says, beautiful. And that's beautiful, Talon. Moon Dawn Fire says, yay. Lulu says, very cool. Oh my goodness, I love that yellow ribbon. One of my favorite colors. Yes, they're all nice and bright, which is great. Elura says, party,
Right.
party emoji. Lots and lots of party emojis. And beautiful. Yes, they are very beautiful. But it's just nice to be recognized. I can't believe how stunned I was when one of our friends put it on my page that I had won
Best
best
of the
entire show,
the
and I'm like,
entire fair.
that was
Yeah.
like, so of all the paintings and the crafts and everything that was there, my piece won.
Beadworks and
it's like, yay. It took 4 years to make it, so it's not like it was a quickie of any kind, but I'm so glad it's done now.
yeah, it looks so fabulous in person.
Yes, it does. It looks fantastic. He says, you deserve it. Your work is gorgeous, and one can tell how much work and love you put into your art. Thank you. I had a really annoying conversation with another witch on a forum a few years back when I was making the piece, and they were like, share your artwork with us. And so I shared my artwork with them and explained the meaning of the piece, the Celtic creation myth, the, male and female, the god and the goddess going into the trees and creating men and women from the oak and the rowan and the Celtic root ball and the turtle inside, because this is my earth representation of earth for me. And she argued with me that it wasn't Celtic. The only thing Celtic was the root ball. And I was very offended by her and remember her name. And every time I see her making a comment on the forum, I'm going like, yeah, I know who you are. Yeah, you're the judgmental one who doesn't appreciate someone else's art. Like, you just try that yourself. I'd like to see you try.
Well, yeah, and it was,
But art is close to our heart, so it's like one of those things, like magic. Like you want to be careful who you share it with. You're never sure if other people are going to hold it in a precious place, like it was for you when you created it, and the process that you went through to make it. And so it is a risk to share it with a larger group of people. So B says, that's a beautiful way to look at things. Also, sheesh, people need to learn how to be silent when it's needed.
Yep.
Talk about bad and jealous vibes. Yeah, no kidding. Vanessa V says, any ideas about what finding feathers and receiving a feather might mean? A feather blew into my hand last month, and counting that, I've gotten 3 feathers in the span of 4 days. Found it interesting. Are they all from the same kind of bird? Or are they from different birds? Are they wing feathers or tail feathers? Are they different colors? Are you working with a bird spirit of some kind? Would be some of the questions I would ask. We had a crow event this morning that made us go outside to see what the heck was happening, because they were screaming at the top of their lungs, and they were gathering around from all over town across the street from us. And I remember from the last time that happened that this is a reaction to a predator, and they're there protecting the flock that's having the trouble. Last time it was an eagle that they chased out of a tree. This time I heard a cat scream, so I'm thinking it was a ground predator, and they were chasing it out of the tree, so I couldn't see it. But, anyway, we couldn't leave to go get our pieces from the fair until it was over. I decided, this is happening now. If I leave the neighborhood, it's probably a bad idea. Wait till everything's calm before we go out the door and go driving. So for all I know, they were making us late to leave than we thought we were going to be, and we avoided some kind of a disaster, and we'll never know what it is. Could have been a dual thing, you never know. But boy, it got all of us up. We were all outside like, what's going on? So trying to figure out what these things, the symbolism and that kind of stuff is sometimes tricky. If it's a personal thing falling into your hand, that seems pretty special. I would keep that feather for sure. That would be a feather that hasn't touched the ground. That would be a feather that's going to have magic in it.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. So Lulu says, until I accepted witch in me, I felt I've been living somebody else's life. Midlife crisis. Normal people get a red sports car. I discover magic. Well, it's a much better thing than a sports car, my opinion.
A red sports car would be fun.
But it doesn't take you into the afterlife. It stays behind where magic goes with you. Moonfire says, insulting art is like calling your baby ugly. Yeah, I agree. B says, I found two owl feathers.
Babies, I don't know.
Well, I found 2 owl feathers at the base of 2 trees. One old feather at the base of an old tree and one baby owl feather from the base of a young tree. It was amazing. Something just told me to go out and be with the trees, and I'm glad I went and did. Awesome.
Awesome. I like your harmony with nature.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the best way to go about it. Moonfire says, my crow friends leave me feathers. Yesterday they left a feather by a shiny clamshell, a clamshell in town in a parking lot. Gifts from my friends. Yes, they're leaving me scallop shells and lots of feathers. B said, beautiful. The Allura says, I feed the crows all the time. They are such smart animals. I love them. Yep, me too. And we also feed them. So we fed them after everything calmed down when we were leaving. Because they were obviously not in the mood to eat. They were very busy taking care of some very important business. They were way focused. Really focused.
And the meeting was like kind of over and everybody just kind of left.
That's right. They all went back to their respective trees or areas of town. But it is interesting to see how they can gather the troops so quickly. It's like they just start going crazy, and then other crows hear them, and then they start calling, and then they start calling and farther away, and they come from like miles away to assist. So they've got that sort of psychic link connection kind of thing. B says, I also adore hawks. They're such beautiful birds, and seeing a lot of them lately. Yeah, I like all kinds of birds. I knew a man once who used to be a husband of mine who thought that birds were stupid because all they did was poop, and he didn't see any reason for them to exist. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? And then, of course, why am I with him?
Well, yeah, that's a sort of a, yeah.
That took a while. Father of one of my children. Yes. But I can't comprehend why people hate birds. Just,
no, it's, yeah.
There was a guy up at the prison that hated the swallows they had up there. He was a guard, actually. And every time a swallow went by, he had this horrible negative black energy and rage. And I just thought, like, wow, what a waste of a potentially beautiful experience to interact with something that's alive and beautiful.
Yeah, well,
instead of having this horrible negative reaction to it. It was very weird.
Well, that's part of what's wrong with the world is not the fact so much that people are like that towards animals, but the fact that they don't have that empathy. I mean, a little animal like a bird, that normally gets a cute thing going in people because of their sympathy and such. Empathy, I don't know. I think it's the lack of that kind of quality, though, with regards to everything else, too. People also that causes so many problems.
I agree. Empathy is something that's sorely needed. I was having some conversation with somebody who was being an a-hat, and at the end of the conversation, when I said, I'm done talking to you, I said, but your lack of empathy concerns me greatly. Because that's what it was. It was a lack of empathy. So, B says, oof, hello, pollination anyone? And plus, what would a summer day be without bird song?
Well, I agree. We have some red-winged blackbirds that get in our tree out front, and boy, they are so pretty when they all start going all at once.
Vanessa V says, have been working with the Morrigan. First one was a tall feather from a white sea eagle, a gift from a bird rescue park. The one that flew into my hand, I don't know, it is small.
Yeah, but that's yeah, flew into your hand.
Small but
That's
mighty.
saying something. That you
Yeah,
know.
that's a mighty thing.
Yep.
Talon says, birds are so important to me personally that I named my coven Bird's Nest Coven. Love it. Nick says, there are loads of seagulls here. Yeah, we get our seagulls as well. But they don't like peanuts, so they leave my yard alone. For a long time, we had a sole seagull that would come with the crows every time and perch on the post across the street and watch and leave disappointed.
Guess he finally figured out there wasn't anything with the crow's food that he wanted.
Yeah, so he says, I even love pigeons. I actually had Birmingham rollers. They were awesome. I really loved them. They were great pigeons. Vanessa V says, the third I found on the ground in an archaeological site, probably from a raven or a ruck. Cool. B says, that's so funny. Anna says, I've had some run-ins with pigeons. I think I must be on their wanted hit list. Had several fly into me and one down the chimney. Just pigeons, nothing else. Maybe they can't see you. You're a blind spot. Or you're so bright, they're just attracted. I don't know. Kenny says, a little brown bird flew on top of my head one day. I freaked out after. I loved it. Yes, I would love that
Cool.
too. I would love to have a crow like land on my arm or something. It's just like they haven't taken me up on the offer yet. I keep hoping. But hey, they're wild crows, so if one fell out of a nest and I found it and nursed it back to health, then that would probably be a whole different relationship. But that's okay. I like them being free. That's one of those things. Like appreciating nature for what it is. Vanessa V says, also had a raven fly around once. Cool. Anna says, one time I was in front of a very posh restaurant and the commotion was quite the show for their dinner. Wow. Was the pigeons? He says, butterflies and moths are the only things that like to land on me. Well, at least they don't knock you over and don't leave a large stain on your clothing.
Well, yeah, that's the only thing that worries me about birds.
Yes, they do sometimes not think about that when they're flying over you. Lulu says, my child was wondering, why are people afraid of witches? Ideas? Because people are stupid. No. Well, actually, yes, that is part of an answer. Because people are afraid of the unknown and things they can't control. And witches represent the hidden supernatural powers that are beyond their ken. And most people harbor some secret they don't want anyone to know or find out about, and something that they feel guilty for. And they're convinced that should a witch find that out, they'd have to pay, and it would be trouble, and it would not be good. And of course, if they had a pure heart, it wouldn't bother them in the least.
Of course, there have been clients of Siofra's that have left after she proved successful at doing some operation to help them. And I know what it was. It was that fear if she can do that, maybe you can do other things, find out things about them. Once they start thinking you actually have an ability, then that fear really kicks in.
Oh, yeah. And yet they always come to us for help. They're hoping we can help them,
but they don't.
But they're
expect it to
afraid
work.
that we can help them.
Yeah.
And then if we do help them, they don't want to see us again because then we remind them that we can do something they can't.
Yeah, and who
But
knows
they
what
could
else?
learn.
Who knows what else? Well, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing. But most people are afraid of the unknown, and that puts you into the unknown category. And so there's a lot of fear there. I mean, I
don't fit in a peg or a hole or whatever.
I'm kind of the opposite. I kind of go towards the unknown because I find it mysterious and fascinating, and it kind of draws me in general, which is not always a good trait, but most of the time it works for me.
Well, I think that people are afraid of things they don't understand, and most people aren't going to spend the time to actually find out what's really going on, because if they stretch their brain out beyond their comfort zone, whatever it is, belief system that they hold, whatever it might be, then they have to reevaluate their own system. At least that's what they think is going to happen. Because if they can accept this other form of reality, then what does that say about the reality that they're living in and accepting? Does it mean that their reality isn't real anymore? You know, it's like people are easily tipped into discomfort.
Yeah.
I think would be one way of putting it.
Well, then that's without even getting into all the, the religious aspects. Of course, that doesn't affect kids so much, but when people get older, they've gotten subjected to the religious attitudes, which are generally against witches.
And then Hollywood,
And then
of
they
course,
have to fight that.
Hollywood
yeah.
is constantly putting us into the Christian mythology, so it really makes it difficult to break free. But hey, some of those shows I watch anyway, even though they annoy me. I like to find a show that doesn't have that kind of a mythos. I'm really enjoying the Fort Salem show about witches. That one's fun because it doesn't have that in it so much, although this last season they're kind of getting a little bit of that in there. But anyway, yeah. So Kenny says the only interactions I have with crows are in my dreams. Seems significant, crows in your dreams. B says that's awesome. I haven't remembered my dreams in a long time, sadly. Where would we be without people who face the unknown? It's true. We would never go anywhere. We would still be stuck in the muck.
I would have never tried sushi and found out that I loved it.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, because we know a couple of people who just will not try sushi.
Because it's evil. B says, anywho, hope you both have a lovely weekend and holiday. I have to leave. Lovely stream this week. Blessed be. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate you. And we know the reason why it's better this time. So yeah, enjoy. And hopefully future ones as well. Get some future streams. So yeah, we like these kinds of questions. These are the reasons for doing the live stream in the first place, is so people have an opportunity to ask some things from at least a potentially reliable source of people who have some experience in the field.
Well, yes.
It's still our opinion, obviously, and we don't expect anyone to necessarily follow it.
But we've been doing it for years, so we got at least our pathways pretty well figured out.
Yeah. Moonfire Dawn says, I love sushi. I have it most Wednesdays. Ida Mama says, I have only just recently started remembering my dreams after probably 30 years of not remembering anything. Moonfire Dawn says, bye. Bye, Moonfire. Well, that's good.
By B. See, it's a B there. Say bye to B.
Oh, by B. Oh, sorry. You're right.
That's okay. Mm-hmm.
Eyes. By B. You guys are so tricky. I'm not up on all these emojis.
Well, that was clearly a B.
Yeah,
a cute
except
little bee.
It is a cute little bee. I like that. So that seems interesting that you're remembering your dreams after that long. Did you stop taking a medication that might have been blocking your dreams, or something else that was blocking your dreams? Just starting to open up and relax and allowing the subconscious to speak.
I wish I could. I usually remember just like very, very little of any dreams. Like sometimes I will remember a general subject, but that's about it. I think I used to be able to remember them well, so I don't know how that turned around. Then I got insomnia, so maybe that relates somehow.
I like that piece of kyanite.
So
Right there. I started doing more research into crystals. I found my book after I couldn't find it when I was making the poppets. I found it. It was sitting right next to me. I just had some mail piled on top of it, so I couldn't see it. I'm just sitting there looking. I'm looking, oh, like, that's the right color for my notebook. Well, that's the right size for my notebook. Oh my God, that's my notebook. This is my notebook. I like doing my own research. So I created this notebook because I have like 3 or 4 different books on crystals, and so I started going through and writing down the ones that I had, and then the ones I might like, and then writing down their properties from different sources and so forth, so I could have it at hand. Actually makes it a lot easier than trying to go through all the books all the time. So Hannah says, what are everyone's suggestions to recenter your energy? I had a series of high stress events and it felt like my energy was scattered. Wondering if anyone has any ideas. Well, meditating at the base of a tree is my go-to for something like that. Yeah, getting away from people for a while and away from the stressful situations so you can just
Yeah,
be with yourself.
if you
That
can,
helps you to center if you're not being pulled in a lot of different directions at the same time.
yeah, if you can be out in nature and quiet your thoughts and your anxieties as much as you can and just be with nature, and the more you can manage that, the better it'll be, and that'll help you recover a lot if you can put the stuff aside long enough to, let it out, drain it into the ground, the anxieties and issues and whatever stress. Let
Yeah,
it
you
drain
can
into the
you can put it
ground.
into a stone and throw the stone in a stream or bury the stone or put it on a piece of paper and burn the paper to try and let it go or put it in a cup of water and pour it out. There's a lot of different methods for trying to externalize things to help get rid of the stuff that's like pulling on you all the time. And
Yeah. Yeah, it will disperse your energy, all the random activity around you, and that's a problem I have, trying to keep things calm around me.
so Ida Mama says, I recently started using my tarot and crystal ball. That's about all I can think of that might have triggered me remembering. Well, that sounds like a couple of good things to trigger you remembering. Tarot's got all kinds of symbolism and stuff in it that excites the subconscious mind. And if you're doing something like that during the day, then it's more likely to show up in a dream.
Yeah, and a crystal ball is like
Using your third eye,
watery
opening,
and third eye and clairvoyance and that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
opening
So
yourself up to messages from the other
yeah,
side, and spirit often speaks to us in our sleep.
so that could relate.
Yeah, quite readily.
Yeah.
Talon says that Hannah, I visualize myself as a tree. Sounds a bit odd, but it works for me.
That's
Yes,
not odd.
I do that all the time.
That's a great way to communicate with a tree. Yeah.
Center and ground. Shoop.
Yep. No, that's a good thing.
Louisville
In my
says a
opinion.
bath. Definitely a bath can help. Put some Epsom salts in the bath, and you can put some essential oils in it that you think might help, or plants. If you're going to do like a plant material, put it in a little gauze bag or something so it doesn't plug up your pipes. But there's lots of things that are calming and relaxing, lavender and rose petals and things like that that you can get a hold of in a garden if you have one, or a local garden kind of thing fairly readily. So yeah, Nick says, I think when the dreams are written down, it encourages the dreams to be more remembered after a time. Absolutely. Writing down your dreams, they get very excited when you start writing them down. They're going like, they're listening. We have more to tell you. Let's dream some more. Yes, they respond to that. Anna says, great ideas, thank you. Ida Mama says, yes, Nick, the morning I realized I was remembering, I started a dream journal. Good idea. And Nick says, nice, Ida Mama. Yep. That is definitely the best thing to do. Because, that's our direct link to our higher self, our spirit guides, our angels if we have them, or our ancestors if we have them. That's where they can walk with us while we're sleeping and teach us things. We can learn things in our dreams as well as get messages and just restructure our own subconscious in the process. When I was going through therapy, I kept finding hidden gardens in my dreams. I would open up a closet and there'd be a garden inside. And I took that as a really positive sign that there were things that I had hidden away to protect them from the evil people I grew up with so that they couldn't harm them. And I was now safe enough that I could start letting them out. And so, yeah, dreams are powerful. Nick says, nice. Anna says, funny, I have all those in my garden. The rose is just coming into its second flowering of the year. It must have known. Well, there you go. Yes. And you can eat the rose petals too. You can also put them in an ice cube tray and freeze them when they're fresh, and then add them to a drink and get a little burst of the flavor and the scent from the rose if you have roses that have smell. I only have roses that have smell because I don't see the purpose in having one that just looks good. I want to have one that my nose can appreciate as well as my eyes. But yeah, it's good to have stuff from your own garden that you can use. Awesome. So we got about 10 minutes left before we're at our hour and a half point. So if anyone has any other questions, now would be the time.
Or subjects, or just, yeah.
Violet says, "Oh my God, you guys are some of the coolest people I know, and I just love listening. You are fine, fine teachers, and I would like your opinion on what would you do to make my OCD personality more." And I'm thinking there must be more.
Yep.
Nick says, "In the witch community, what do they think about positive ETs? Extraterrestrials? Is that what positive ETs are?" Google says, "Bath with roses is a Venus thing to do." Yes, absolutely. Very cute and wonderful Venus Aphrodite thing to do. I don't know. It's going to be like in the regular population. Some people have had experiences, some have not. Some will believe, some will not. I don't think that there's a consensus when it comes to the witches' opinions about extraterrestrials. Allura says, "My cat Heavenly, that passed away a few years ago, came and nudged me on my forehead when I was falling asleep. Straight connection to the spirit world. It was very profound." Yeah, that is always interesting. One of our cats came back and jumped on my bed and laid next to me and purred and made little biscuits and stuff, and I could feel him because he was never allowed on my bed when he was alive. He was very happy. Violet says, "Become invisible. Like absolutely everything she does just washes off of me like a duck. Right now she has a bright blue pool ruining my view, and it will always be something. I want to numb myself." Getting overview is a lifelong kind of endeavor. Um, but overview is what you need for things to not to bother you, to see the long view, like in the scheme of things, in the scheme of your lifetime, in the scheme of the Earth's lifetime, in the scheme of the lifetime of the universe. What kind of an impact does that ugly blue pool actually have?
I'd like to add a little bit to that. That working with water, the water element in general, will help. It will do two things, and one of them you have to watch out for. It'll bring up a lot of that stuff if it's stored in you and the energy hasn't gotten out. But that's its advantage. Working with water can loosen that stuff up, and then if you don't keep it, you dump it into something and get rid of it. That can help with that stuff a lot. That's one of the things I do. That's helpful. I have all kinds of things that bother me that are stupid things, and I don't want them to bother me, and it annoys me that they bother me, which is like kind of lame too. But
Double annoying.
but yes, but working with the water helps, and you have to watch out. Like I say, if you work with water, you might get some past stuff coming up. It'll loosen everything up. You need to make sure you get rid of it, and you don't do it enough to overwhelm you, because you can loosen stuff up enough to overwhelm you. So yeah, let it wash you clean of some of those things, and then they'll bother you less and less, hopefully.
So Vanessa V says, "Talking about Venus, any ideas on connecting with her? Just got a candle I would like to dedicate to working with her. She likes the color green. She loves roses. Rose oil would probably be a good thing to anoint the candle with. She likes emeralds, if you had any." Not very many of us have emeralds lying around, but you never know. Um, yeah, she also likes the color pink sometimes, according to other people. But the roses is a definite. In fact, I took one of my roses and put it next to my Aphrodite statue that I have in my bedroom and just let the rose dry and sit there. I do that at least once a year to sort of reconnect. She was my first real goddess, I think, was Aphrodite. And knowing where the planet is in the sky, whether it's in the morning or in the evening, if you can get a chance to like look at it or see it, that can also be a good connection to have with the Venus energy. And Talon says, "Connecting with Venus, seashells come to mind instantly." Well, that's because they have her coming out of the sea, but I don't think that that's necessarily her thing as far as the goddess herself is concerned. I think that,
Right.
I mean, it's not that it's a bad thing, because certainly Venus is somewhat watery.
Yeah.
And has some watery aspects to it. Violet says copper, copper penny. Yes, copper is her metal. 7 is her number.
Metal of Venus, yeah. Number of Venus, 7.
Yeah, 7 is the number of Venus.
Color's emerald green.
Yes, we spoke that. And rose quartz is another good one. On my wand for her, I have rose quartz, garnet, and emeralds. So, yeah, making that kind of connection.
Yeah, things that generally represent love and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Vanessa V says, yes, the candle is rose scent, and I do have her altar full of shells. It's my first time reaching out to her. And find some poetry, love poetry, to read to her. She likes that too. You might be able to find some ancient poetry written to her, like by the Greeks or the Romans or something like that. And if you find something that sounds good to you and goes easy on the tongue, you could dedicate a time to give her all these things at the same time and say a poem to her and let her know that you're open to a two-way connection, as it were. So.
And copper oxidizes green, in case you didn't know, so that strengthens its relationship with that aspect of Venus. Make like a copper talisman or something. They used to use it for painting. I think it was called Viridian. I may have the wrong stuff, but I think it was the copper patina scraped off that was called Viridian. They used it for making oil paints.
Talon says, just follow your instincts on the number of shells. Nick says, does it mean anything if I find clear quartz crystals in nature? It means you are lucky. You found a quartz. It's awesome. And you can probably make a collection of them and maybe use them on items or make talismans or little charged up things to put in your pocket for whatever you want. Quartz will take about anything at all. It's sort of like a universal stone for charging up for whatever purpose you need it for.
I lived in a place when I was a child that had lots and lots of quartz everywhere. It was not clear quartz, though. It was all milky white quartz.
Yep.
Kind of cool. I haven't seen that any place else, though. Not just like everywhere in the, like we find stones around here.
I think it's awesome. It means a happy thing.
Yep.
I would be in heaven finding all kinds of clear quartzes all over. And Vanessa V says, oh, thanks a lot. Great ideas. You're welcome. We're always happy that we can give people good ideas. Just throwing them all out there. Whatever sticks, is like, that's why we like our community. We get to talk about whatever.
Yeah, and stuff that's interesting to us, because we don't have people around here so much other than, Siofra and I talk to each other, but after a while it's like, said pretty much everything after 30 some years of living together.
Yeah, although we still find
married.
new revelations here and there, which is
Yes,
fascinating.
Yeah.
Especially after being together that long. But that means we actually listen to one another,
Yeah.
which is one of the reasons we're still together.
Well, we actually start to think the same at this point, so we think the same things at the same times, which is cool.
Celeste says, when is the last time you've seen a fairy? Last night. That was the last time I saw a fairy. They were trying to explain to me why they have wings. And they were trying to give me the experience of what it was like to have wings and to be a fairy. So they were taking me on a bit of a trip.
Trippy.
It was trippy and very colorful. There was greens and blues and purples, colors and stuff, and yeah, and lots of wonderful smells. Lavender smell was really strong. The amber smell was there too for a while, which is always interesting when they smell different. Nick says, interesting, wow. Well, I don't have them every day, but I happened to have them last night, so I was happy. I was just thinking, boy, I haven't seen you guys around in a while. And they went, oh, hey, let's have a visit. So I guess now is our time to say goodbye to everybody since we only have 30 seconds left. And hopefully, I mean, you guys can contact me. You can friend me on Facebook, send me messages that way. You can become a patron on my Patreon page under Siofra Bradigan, both Facebook and Patreon or under Siofra Bradigan. We have our Etsy store under Siofra's Magic Alcove where you can look at the new items that we just put up. The printed t-shirt of the rose that Ian painted for me as his expression of love. And then the painting that he did of Shore Acres that you can get as a poster. And we always look forward to getting questions. My Gmail is siofrasmagicalcove@gmail.com, so you can send in questions for the live show or for just us to answer if you need a question answered. Talon says, I had a cat Voodoo for 20 years, and long after she passed, she ran across me while I slept, something she did nightly when she was alive. Violet says, thanks so much. Much love to you guys. Hannah says, as always, thank you both for your time and for sharing. Thanks also to the community for being lovely. It was a lovely community this evening.
Yep. Yes, it
Nick
was.
says, thank you. Vanessa says, thanks. Jennifer says, blessed be. Moonfire says, good night all. So, blessed be everybody. Have yourself a fantastic week.